In our stock exchange, we've had a number of issuances, starting with a gender bond that was issued by National Microfinance Bank, NMB, and it was followed by social bond, again issued by NMB. Over the years, we've also had green bonds coming through from CIDB. We've had a green/infrastructure bond issued by Tanga Owasa. International development funds, etc., they wouldn't put their money in somewhere where they'll say that you call it sustainable, but it's not. We call that greenwashing, where you say that this is green, you window grace it, but you actually divert the money to something else.
In the year 2022, 53% of the companies that are listed in BSE had submitted sustainability reports, and I think that number grew to 60.7 the year after that. To date, what has been the adoption like in terms of just being able to prepare and submit sustainability reports?
It ticks a few boxes. Number one, clients customer, investors customer, and you can raise hopefully additional funding from the market by doing this.
Part of having sustainable development is also equipping people with the right information to act. With such convenience literally at our fingertips, how do you balance the Gen Z who are now, there's a BSE app, let me buy stock for this company and that company, versus equipping them with the right kind of information to know what kind of analysis they need to do so that they can know where to invest, where to not invest.
Financial education in today's world is not just about this, how you open a savings account, etc. It's about, you know what, you can raise financing through capital markets. So far, we have $531 billion in TZS of sustainable bonds, $186 billion equivalent, and Tanga Owasa, which is classified as both sustainable and infrastructure, $53 billion. There's a lot more coming in the pipeline as they get listed, as they get issued and get listed, to make a choice to invest.
What is the significance for these disclosures, wanting to adopt sustainability as a business strategy?
When you have a purpose as an organization, then it's easy to branch out and get to the field. So purpose starts from what are we here for? But purpose in the ESG context also means that we are a better world citizen than we were yesterday, and we want to keep on being better.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Christopher Shayo, and I'm super excited to welcome you to another episode of Sustainability Bongo. Over here, we have conversations that help us break down concepts, demystify notions around the subject of sustainability, but we also put a spotlight on businesses, individuals, and innovators who are championing sustainability in their own right. Thank you to the CEO Roundtable and IUCN, which stands for the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, who have collaborated with us to help us decode Tanzania's sustainability story. Today, I have the pleasure to welcome yet another phenomenal business leader who has worked for almost 20 years in various industries, including capital markets, banking and finance, investments, pension fund management, as well as telecommunications. He is also an academician who has served as the president of the Actuarial Society of Tanzania, and has also served various roles, including lecturing and being a capability faculty member at the University of Dar es Salaam. He sits in multiple boards, and he is also the chief executive officer of the Salaam Stock Exchange. Ladies and gentlemen, Peter Nalitolela, karibu sana.
Asante, Christopher.
Karibu sana. I'm very happy to have you on the podcast for many different reasons. But more specifically today, because I am wishing for us to talk about sustainability through a business lens. I think oftentimes when we speak about sustainability, the general rule of thumb is we tend to gravitate to the climate, we tend to talk about the environment, but there's also a side of sustainability which I think is often overlooked. which is prosperity, and which is, how does sustainability not really enter, but how does it occupy the business space as well? So today, because of the work that you do with the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange, I see an opportunity for us to talk about the intersection of the value that sustainability brings to investors, first of all, to listed companies or companies that are considering to list with DSE, but also to the communities as well. So the conversation will most likely revolve around that, but without further ado, I'm just going to start with the first point that I have for today. And this is mostly, so I was reading the sustainability reports that was published, I think, in June last year.
Yeah.
And I think in it, I learned that in the year 2016, DSE became a partner exchange at the UN Sustainable Stock Exchange initiative. Now, with that said, I think the first thing that came to mind, and I said this is the question I'm going to lead with, is from an investor's perspective. Maybe we have a listener who is an investor at DSE. What are some of the exciting investment opportunities or sustainable financing products that DSE has to offer for investors?
Okay, thank you, Christopher, and thanks once again for that kind introduction, both for myself and sharing a bit about my organization, the organization that I work with,
Yes.
the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. But before I respond to your question, just a little bit of background for the benefit of our listeners.
Yes.
The Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange was established in 1996, so it's turning 30 years this year. But officially started operations in 1998 with the first listing of a company called Toll Gases, which at the time was typical Tanzania Exchange Limited. Over the years, the stock exchange has grown. And like you said, in 2016, we joined the United Nations Sustainable Stock Exchange Initiative, which is an initiative that brings together the UN Stock Exchange and other partners to make sure that investment isn't just about making money, but it's also about being sustainable while you do it. And when it comes to the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange specifically, we've been a regional leader when it comes to creating instruments that do cover the sustainability space. In particular, you've mentioned that historically people have always thought about climate change, the environment, etc. But in our stock exchange, we've had a number of issuances, starting with a gender bond that was issued by NMB, which became National Microfinance Bank, which is also listed on stock exchange. And it was followed by social bond, again issued by NMB. And not only have there been bonds that have been issued here locally, but they've also been cross-listed. And the Luxembourg Stock Exchange, which is known to be a world leader when it comes to sustainability issuances. Over the years, we've also had green bonds coming through from CIDB and the like. We've had a green slash infrastructure bond issued by Tanga water authorities. So to answer your question in short, we cover all these different spaces, not just green financing, which most people know, which number one speaks to what is the synergies to our investors. You invest in a social bond, it gives you a return, but it goes towards the society that you're a part of. So there's quite a few that we can discuss as we go along, but in a nutshell, we are known regionally to be a leader when it comes to sustainability issuances.
Okay, that's very interesting, and I'm glad you gave a bit of a background, because some of the questions that I had as well also included some of the things that you said. For example, the sustainability bonds that you referenced by NMB, which I believe was listed in September 2023, if I'm not mistaken. For someone who is listening, maybe who is not very clear on what exactly a sustainability bond is versus, let's say, the usual government bonds that we're used to, what is the simplest way to explain it to someone, to a potential investor, let's say?
So I'll explain about the word sustainability in its generality. It's an all-catching, all-encompassing word that has come to mean everything that covers the environment, environmental sustainability, social aspects of it, governance, and the thinking around the sustainability universe keeps expanding.
Yes.
Previously, we also used to think about the environment, green, etc. But now we're looking at inclusivity when it comes to investment, including previously underfunded groups such as youth and women. Governance, of course, has come into the fold, etc.
Yeah.
So, in short, when you talk about sustainability, it's how do we look at us as a society, locally and globally? How do we move on into a world that is better, more sustainable, be it financially, the environment, social cohesion, etc.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
The Swahili word that we've translated to is endelevu.
Yes,
So
yes.
it has to be
Yeah.
maendeleo endelevu in all its aspects, be it
Okay.
financially,
Yeah.
socially, and so on.
Okay. Okay. So would you say, would I be correct if I said basically it's an instrument that raises funds in the stock exchange specifically to finance or maybe refinance activities that zinaleta maendeleo endelevu?
Absolutely. So
Okay.
you use the stock exchange to get either money to invest in a particular social project, to invest, let's say, in a public goods project, so the government can use sustainability financing to invest in public good infrastructure, which is commercial in that sense, but
Right.
it's for the government to raise money to
Yeah.
build hospitals, schools, and
Yeah.
public utilities and infrastructure.
Okay. Okay. Wow, I'm really interested in what you just said. So I think you also mentioned earlier the NMB Jamii bond, and I think maybe a question that I want to ask is how do communities, let's say you mentioned sections that are underserved, such as, let's say, youth or women, how do these communities benefit from these sustainability bonds while still balancing revenues, let's say, for the company that's issuing the particular bond, or if it's the government? How does that balance happen really on the ground, if I may ask?
And I'll say this, and I'll be very careful when I say this.
Yeah.
International investors, some international investors,
Yeah.
would particularly want to invest only in a particular kind of instrument. This can be both development partners, but even some private high net worth individuals say that if I'm going to put my money in, it only has to be in a particular kind of structure. And it's not always a guarantee, but
Yes.
usually these kind of bonds tend to attract lower interest from investors, because if I come in as an anchor investor, I'll say I'll ask for 8% instead of 10%,
Right.
because it goes to a public good. But so it makes even the lending or the investment to the final off-taker, the underserved, etc., to also potentially be cheaper.
I see. I see. Okay. So this, I'm just trying to imagine this would also require a lot of scrutiny in terms of implementation and reporting. Is that a fair statement to say?
Yes, it requires a lot of scrutiny, particularly if you want to be actually recognized and certified, because there are different levels. You can say that on a local authority, local regulatory level, we accept this as being sustainable. But if you go back to, say, the BKN bond, NMB, Tangawas, etc., these are actually, they've all been cross-listed in other markets.
Okay.
And to get there, you actually have to be certified, like you said. There's always a continuous obligation to make sure that your certification stays. And for investors in particular, especially these big international development funds, etc., they wouldn't put their money in somewhere where they'll say that you call it sustainable, but it's not.
Okay.
Or using specific language from the E side, from the green side, we call that greenwashing, where you say that this is green. You window dress it, but you actually take the money or divert the money to something else.
I see. I see. So I guess this is also why reporting is such an important thing, because I was reading the report that you published last year, and I was seeing that frameworks, let's say, by the Global Reporting Initiative that are very well observed, and you are pushing even for your listed companies to observe. And I was curious to know, I think I read in the year 2022, if I'm not mistaken, 53% of the companies that are listed in DSE had submitted sustainability reports. And I think that number grew to 60.7 the year after that. I'm just curious to know, to date, what has been the adoption like for companies that are listed in terms of just being able to prepare and submit sustainability reports.
Yes, thanks, Christopher. So just to share a bit more detail.
Yeah.
In the year 2022, as a stock exchange, we introduced sustainability guidelines.
Yeah.
And a big part of that was based on GRI principles, etc. We shared that with our listed companies and we required them to prepare sustainability reports. Of course, it's been growing slowly. Some of them take time, not because they do not want to, but capabilities also need to be built in. So we're waiting to see what the numbers will look like by the end of 2050.
Right.
We do quite a lot of work to train them as well. And thankfully, our regulator, the Capital Markets Security Authority, actually codified the regulations when what does it mean to have sustainable bonds in Tanzania. Last year, May, those regulations were published. So as we get more and more formalization of what is required, and we train companies more and tell them this is what you need to do and this is why it's important.
Right.
More and more of them are taking it up because it also creates synergies with their own investors and clients. That if I publish a sustainability report as required, as part of my annual integrated reporting, then it ticks a few boxes. Number one, clients trust you more, investors trust you more, and you can raise hopefully additional funding from the market by being sustainable.
Okay. So I think I'm really fascinated by that because I'm trying to imagine if, let's say, a business as usual organization that has been running the organization successfully, and what is you mentioned that you're building capacity amongst the listed companies. I'm assuming there are some initiatives where this DSE is specifically leading, where you're going maybe and you're training them on what to do or how to do. Is that a correct statement to say?
Yes. Currently, we have a biannual competition called DSC Member Awards, where we award members in different categories, be it from listed companies, from brokers, from custodian banks, etc. We have different categories.
Right.
And those awards are based on a number of factors, financial performance, etc. But one of the things key things we look at is your sustainability performance.
Right.
And we're going to have the awards again this December, hopefully.
Okay.
The last time we had it was a couple of years ago.
Right.
And I remember sitting with some of the colleagues, listed companies that are competitors. I won't mention who they are. And I know them. And one of them was a bit disappointed that their competitor won.
Right.
So initiatives like this puts the onus on them to say that next time I'm going to do better. Just share with you, also working on another initiative to have an ESG index that we're putting together.
Right.
And that ESG index will also be awarding members based on specific ESG criteria. So we'll improve on what, how the transparency around the ESG performance. So that's another initiative we're working on.
Yeah.
And it's exciting for them as well, for the companies when you get awarded, you get applauses at the end of the year. So there are a few initiatives. And so just to add something else, we also working with United Nations Sustainable Security Exchanges Initiative, working with IFC, who's a very big partner, and the IFRS Foundation also did the trading, not just to listed companies, but to the public as well on S1 and S2 reporting. So sometimes it's also from the professionals themselves being able to say that I was part of this webinar is also a reward. You can say that I have this on my CV that I'm trained in this space.
Okay. So there's an appetite for that, which I think is fantastic. I think you mentioned there's going to be an ESG index that you're working on, and I just remember from a bit of my schooling. I remember there was a time we would learn about so many different frameworks. There was the triple bottom line and all of these things. How has it been like from your perspective in terms of, first of all, how do you make decisions on which frameworks apply for our local market? And is there a challenge, or is it just something that I'm assuming in terms of the multitude of frameworks that exist?
Yeah, so so far as it has been growing, GRI has been the go-to framework that we use, but we try to mix and match. And companies, some of our listed companies, for example, are part of international groups, so they have even stricter reporting standards, which may be even higher than what we recommend.
Right.
But as a country, for example, we're also working, not just DSC, but this is a government-led initiative that involves multiple stakeholders, including DSC, working on establishing nomenclature for the country specific. So if company A says that this is green, company B says this is green, the two should be the same, so there cannot be double standards.
Right.
So there's different levels to it. You need global perspective, but local relevance as you go along. So, and this is true not just for Tanzania. We've seen this for Africa as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes we've done an assessment as African capital markets that the cost of compliance, if you want to have your top-notch compliance, can be too onerous that some of our smaller companies here in Africa wouldn't be able to meet.
I see.
So it's a learning process, I would say, in short, and you mix and match and adapt and grow from there.
Okay. That's comforting to hear. It's very comforting to hear, because I think oftentimes, especially if this is the beginning and you're being overwhelmed by all of these frameworks and the jargons and the terminologies, I would assume that some, especially maybe the medium-sized businesses or those that are starting, might be a bit intimidated here and there, which kind of leads me to another thing I wanted to ask you, which is a bit outside of reporting and compliance. From your perspective, and especially because you have a nice purview of the market and listed companies, for a business that maybe is listed or maybe is not listed, what is the significance of these disclosures, or what is the significance of wanting to adopt sustainability as a business strategy? Is there significance?
Yes, definitely. So what we always try to say, when I say we, I don't mean the DC only, but people that promote ESG, is to tell companies that it's not an issue of compliance. It's not an issue of ticking a box, but an issue of doing the right thing. And if you are doing the right thing and be evidence to be doing the right thing, then there's that synergy with your the general public, your customers, investors, etc. So we've come globally over time. We've come a long way. Initially, the issue was more around we do CSR because we want to show our communities that we're part of the community, and we want to attract clients from there, etc. So it was just an exercise. Here's part of our profits, we're giving it back to society.
Right.
And that has since evolved to actually wanting to, number one, live a better society, because it also reduces your own cost of doing business if you can source materials more sustainably. But number two, it's also, like I said, being able to look at yourself in the mirror and say, we did the right thing. And number three, having the society actually, if through your disclosures, it's not just because the regulator says that you should do something, your evidence to be doing it in the right way, you attract, it's synergy with your stakeholders. So the government, the society that you serve, the employees as well, forgot that, because the younger generation actually, you're more sensitive towards this than the older generation.
Yes. No, that is very true. And I think as you're speaking, what's becoming more apparent in my mind is reporting is almost like a tool for trust, but it's also an accountability tool as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I think, and I'm going to trade carefully here, but I think the general sentiments around CSR before were okay, these are PR stunts, because I see you planting a tree, but do I really know how much money is going to this particular community or this and that? Whereas when someone has to disclose and share real data, I think it puts the pressure on, not pressure, but it puts the initiative in these companies to do the real thing so that they can have actual data to report. Is that a fair statement to make?
Yes, and whatever we help these companies develop tools, either as exchanges or as consultants, there are a number of consultants regionally and globally that help them prepare localized tools, because some of these off the shelf can be expensive. We always tell them the aim of the tool is not for you to put in the numbers, put in a report and then give it to the regulator.
Right.
It's actually the aim is to be a mirror to you, to say that, okay, this is actually how I look like. Maybe I need to shave a little bit here, maybe put a bit more makeup there. So it's actually a tool to help you improve as a company. And it also has financial benefits as well, because let's take a simple example of making sure that you put more energy efficient lights and equipment in your office, use water more accountably. It actually reduces also your cost of doing business as well.
This episode of Sustainability Bongo is brought to you by CEO Roundtable in partnership with IECN via the Resolve NBS initiative. Under its business and sustainability agenda, the CEO Roundtable has been working with the private sector in integrating sustainability in their respective business strategies. The Resolve NBS initiative is a very practical way of showing how nature-based solutions can create real impact right here in Tanzania. We're so proud to have them as our partners on this journey as we decode Tanzanians' sustainability story. So it seems to me like there are clear benefits of adopting sustainability. Would you say maybe there is this is something I've been asking myself quite a bit, and it's partly why we're even having these conversations in this manner, is would you say there is maybe a communication gap, or there's an opportunity rather to communicate better what things like you just said, so that businesses and other stakeholders can understand and carry the weight of this conversation? Is that a...
Yes, there is an opportunity. People need to see the benefits. I shared earlier that if you work to certain global standards, cost of compliance can be quite onerous, but you start local, then become globally relevant. So you communicate, how do we at least start crawling before we start running? Number two, there's an opportunity to tell businesses, to the general public, why is this important for you? Of course, to tell governments as well. And I'm grateful that our government is taking the initiative in that space. There are multiple efforts. And even if you look at Development Vision 2050, it does quite a bit lean on building sustainable economy.
Right.
So communicating, saying that we're doing this for all of us is an opportunity.
Yeah. Okay. I think because we're discussing, let's say, the general public, right? And I know we were briefly just speaking off camera about the mobile app for the Salaam Stock Exchange. So I'm just thinking, it just crossed my mind right now. For, let's say, for an investor like myself who is used to buying the traditional, let's say, stock instruments that are in DSE, would I be able to, let's say, if I wanted to invest in one of these sustainable financial products or sustainability bonds, where do I go? Can I get it on the app, or how does that actually work?
Okay. So before we get to the app, one another initiative I want to mention is that over time, as the market has been growing, so in the same year that we joined the UNSCCI, we also, of course, are self-listed, but that's not the main point I want to share. But we also, on the same journey, we also dematerialized the market, which basically means that instead of holding a paper certificate, it's all digital now. We're one of the first markets in Africa to do that.
Okay.
So the importance with that is that, number one, it saves us the cost of printing paper certificates for shares and bonds, etc. But from the client perspective, you need to, some of our clients look for us these days. They say, you know what, my father bought me this share 20 years ago. I don't know where the share certificate is. We tell them, no, just give us your details. Yes. All the information is available online. And now from there, going to the app now, we developed a mobile trading app in November of 2020.
Right.
And since then, it's been growing. And what's that meant for us as an exchange? It's also reduced a cost for us to keep all these documents for us and the brokers as well. But it's also meant that from the investor's side, you don't have to move from your home to go to the broker's office to open a new trading account. That saves you money, but it also saves the environment by not having to burn fuel.
Right.
But it's also created convenience. Anywhere you are in the world, 24/7, you can invest, you can open a new account and so on. So it's given more access. It's put convenience at the investors' fingertips.
Yeah.
It's put access to information, easily you can see everything. And it's also helped us grow as a market because we're seeing a fast and faster pace of growth, particularly from the Gen Z segment and the Gen...
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. That's very encouraging to hear. That's very, very encouraging to hear. And I think you mentioned Gen Z and something else came to my mind. I think part of having sustainable development is also equipping people with the right information to act. So this is a question that just crossed my mind, but with such convenience literally at our fingertips, how do you balance, let's say, the Gen Z who are now, there's a DSE app, let me buy stock for this company and that company, versus equipping them with the right kind of information to, let's say, know what kind of analysis they need to do so that they can know where to invest, where to not invest, maybe. I think I might have read something where there was some sort of an academy that you had at DSC, which was, I'm going to let you speak about this, but yeah.
We do have a DSC academy that we've established initially as a department, we have a trading department, but we've spun it off into an entity that is fully licensed and focused on providing trading, number one, for investments, and trading about capital markets in general. For those that wish to trade on the trading floor of the exchange, you get certified by having one of our certificates. But we also work with other trainers in through different programs.
Right.
And we can also do specific customized training for, let's say, a particular organization, a particular group. Let's say there's a group of students from a particular locale or university that can ask for a particular design program if they're interested in beyond what we offer that is off the shelf.
Okay. Oh, that's great. That's fantastic. And it's just reminding me of what I was actually meaning to ask you about. Let's say for an investor that is looking to invest in one of these sustainability bonds or such kind of products, where do they go, or what are the kind of steps that they can take as well?
So there's a number of resources and work together as a market. I'm grateful that we have a regulator who's very cooperative when it comes to spreading awareness. We work with CMSA and work with BOT as well when it comes to provide a general financial education, but also specific information on sustainability. We, as an exchange, do the same thing, but we also work with our brokers and certified financial educators. So there's a whole ecosystem that is working together to spread the knowledge. But plans are underway across the country to codify this in the curriculum, general financial education, but going beyond that, talking about sustainability, because financial education in today's world is not just about this how you open a savings account, etc. It's about these are the different products that are available in the financial markets world, and these let's say in a particular category like sustainability that you speak about, these are the sustainability products, and this is how you do your analysis on what is a good one and what is not a good one. But we're always happy to take feedback from our investors in terms of where the gaps are, and we can also design something for the public or for a specific group of investors.
Okay. No, I'm happy to hear that. I'm very happy to hear that, and it kind of makes me want to zoom out a bit and maybe even take a step back a bit and ask from a country's perspective as Tanzania. and from your purview as well, what would you say are some of the biggest challenges or opportunities in scaling sustainable finance locally?
So, first of all, is creating the awareness to particularly institutions that can be off-takers or users of these funds.
Yeah.
So, working, for example, with local authority governments, local authorities to say that, you know what, you can raise financing through capital markets. And we always use Tanga or Wasa as an example to work with local governments and entities that are managed by local government. Say there's this whole market that you're not using that is available to you for Tanzanian and international investors, because you can issue a particular infrastructure instrument that can help you with the growth of your region or district or municipality, which has a trickled or rather a consolidated effect at the country level.
Right.
So that's one opportunity, working with these local governments. The central government is working with us to create and spread this knowledge. Number two, it's also talking to, earlier on you mentioned most of our companies are SMEs, etc., to train them, to educate them that there's this capital markets, and in particular, if you target a particular kind of instrument like a sustainable instrument, you may be able to get international investors that otherwise wouldn't have been able to access for the size of the company.
Okay. So a lot of it is still around the communication gap, the information gap.
The information gap that we have. And of course, whenever we talk about sustainability, I usually don't just like ending it on the finance side, even though I'm a finance professional. But also when it comes to talking about sustainability in general, I know sometimes when you come from a country whose general population is on the closer side to the poverty line, sometimes you are thinking about survival first, and not necessarily about the future, but to educate each other that, look, if you dump that garbage in the river that next to you, maybe it's because you don't have access to a particular location where you can, a garbage collecting site where you can put this. But what that ends up meaning is that, number one, you risk your own health. But number two, it means that the government, instead of using money to bring services closer to you, they'll have to use the money to keep cleaning that river that we polluted.
Right. So it's wow, it's a balance, right? We have to understand the more pressing needs, but then there's behaviors that can change to still help you address the need that you have. I think in one of the earlier episodes, I was having a conversation with one of the guests, and they were mentioning how it would be great if tomorrow we said, hey, we're all in electric vehicles, but the reality is there is no infrastructure yet to be able to facilitate such a thing. So there are some baby steps that can be taken here, still towards the same direction, but a bit more practically and sustainable, pun intended.
And just speaking on that, so when it comes to investing in mass transit systems, we can at least start with those when it comes to electric vehicles, using at least CNG, which is a cleaner fuel. So before to go to everyone, because not everyone owns even a bike, but at least the mass transit systems that we're using, and I know that has that initiative as well. And as we expand towards other regions, you can start small, or at least if I get onto a bus, I know it's much more greener than the buses that I used to take 10 years ago, 5 years ago.
Okay, I like that. So it's like we're on a mission still, but we're giving each other grace to understand where we are and what we can actually do with what we have. Okay. Normally, I like to ask a particular question towards the end of our conversations, where, because one of the biggest things about this podcast is to try and demystify some notions. In your experience, what are some of the biggest misconceptions that you've come across around the subject of sustainability?
I like that question because I like the name of the podcast, which is Sustainability Bongo, and for the benefit of our other viewers who may not necessarily be familiar with the origin of the term XXX Bongo. It means, is this relevant to Bongo? Is this relevant to Tanzania? And I like the name because there's misconception for most Tanzanians, or for most Africans for that matter, or people from and I know this is not a very popular term anymore from the global south, is that it is relevant to us. Number one, we're just looking for survival. Who cares about sustainability? But number two, the biggest polluters are the big guys, so why should we care about number one? That's, of course, the damage is done to the east side. But when I talk about sustainability in general, the misconception is that, yes, it is relevant to you no matter how small, how big you are, be it because of financial reasons, health reasons, social cohesion.
Okay. So basically, if I'm understanding what you're saying correctly, is the misconception is that this isn't relevant.
Yeah.
But the reality
is, before you throw that plastic bag outside of the dollar window, think about what that means for the environment, but the cost that goes towards cleaning that up. Before you say, okay, just hold it with you and go put it in a garbage can. So there are other markets in Africa that are smaller than us that have tried to do, still baby steps, but they have tried to do, there are the stages where they are doing better things than us. So yes, it is relevant and it is possible.
Okay. And maybe I want to ask the same question, but now with a specific focus to businesses. I know, let's say for the examples that we've given, I think a lot of them apply to the general public and whatnot, but have you ever encountered, let's say, in a conversation with a fellow business exec and you notice that there's a misconception even in those circles as well?
Yes, quite a few actually. The good thing is most of the ones that at least I get to interact with on a day-to-day basis, particularly through organizations like the CEO Roundtable, understand that it's become very topical in our various forums where we meet as business leaders. But I've also met a lot more that think is not relevant because they're just looking for the bottom line. But as we say these days, it's no longer about the bottom line. Is not just P&L. There's actually not even triple, quadruple bottom line now. So it's profit, people, planet, and purpose.
Oh, I see. Okay. That's amazing. I didn't know about the fourth element there, and I actually have a follow-up question there. How, if you add purpose there, how is that measured or tracked?
So purpose wouldn't be able to necessarily, or at least right now, or from what I know, be measured. But purpose for me means that you can look at yourself in the mirror and say that we did this for a good reason. And also, like one of Simon Sinek's talk is that where he says starts with why. Start with why, because when you have a purpose as an organization, then it's easy to branch out and get to the P&L. So purpose starts from what are we here for? But purpose in the ESG context also means that we are a better world citizen than we were yesterday, and we want to keep on being better.
Got you. That is. I really like that, and I know we are running out of our time, but I'll be remiss if I don't ask you this question as well, right? Because part of this is also to make it very practical for our listeners. So now that we've addressed some of the misconceptions, what would you say are some practical things or practical steps that we can start with investors and then businesses and communities at large that they can take so as to attain maendeleo endelevu? Yeah.
So some of the steps, I'll start with the general, then come to the investment side. So when you walk out of the room, switch that light off. Switch that fan off. Do not pollute and etc. If you can use electronics to avoid using paperwork, please do. We try to do that as an organization as well, where we say, let's reduce the paper trail and go more digital. So make sure that at least you do the simple things. When it comes to the investment, choose to, number one, invest on the DSC, but use the electronic means that are available to you to invest, because it creates convenience for you, but it also saves the environment. But do make a choice to invest in sustainable instruments. So far, we have 531 billion in TZS of sustainable bonds,
Wow.
$186 billion equivalent as well. And Tangawasa, which is classified as both sustainable and infrastructure, 53 billion. There's a lot more coming in the pipeline as they get listed, as they get issued and get listed. Do make a choice to invest.
Okay. That's amazing. And I think you've mentioned Tangawasa a few times, and I remember seeing it in the report. But just for the listener who maybe is not fully aware of what that is and the details of it, could you share maybe like a summary of what Tangawasa is?
Yes, so the Tanga Urban Water and Sanitation Authority, about 2 years ago, or 3 years ago now, issued a bond, 10-year bond.
Okay.
And they're looking to raise funds to invest in water infrastructure. But it's not just about building water storage facilities and pipes, etc., but they're also rehabilitating the environment through the process.
Right.
And they're investing in such a way that it's much more cleaner, much more sustainable.
Right.
So it helps increase water access to the residents of the city of Tanga. But at the same time, it does it in such a way that the environment is protected. Water sources are protected, because one of the biggest risks we're facing globally is running out of clean water. And it was such a good issuance in terms of how it was structured. It took a while to get it on board, because there was a lot of learning across the board. But it was such a successful issuance that it was cross-listed in Luxembourg. But also it's become as the poster child for other public entities.
Wow. Yeah. That's amazing to hear. So if just last question here, because I'm really curious. So let's say if I am from Morogoro. Let's say if Morowasa wanted to replicate the same thing, at least there's a framework to how to go about it because of what has happened with Tangawasa. Is that
yes, absolutely. The framework of you don't need to reinvent the wheel, like you said. And because of success of Tangawasa, it means a lot of local investors. Because initially people like water authorities, can they actually have the cash to pay? But there is a lot more trust now from local investors.
Right.
But it also attracts global development partners to come and invest. DFIs will be happy to invest.
Right.
Etc. And I studied in Morogoro. I went to Mzumbe for my A levels.
Right.
So one of the things that people would always say is that we used to have water supplied all the way to the school just from the rivers flowing from the mountain. So if they can use that water and use a sustainable bond to invest in those water infrastructure facilities, so that we do not deplete the rivers, the beautiful rivers that has made Morogoro such an attractive town.
Right. Oh, that's amazing. Wow. Okay. I've left here with something that I did not know prior, especially as it pertains to that framework that Tangawasa used. And I think there's so many other things that I've picked up here, which, I wish we had the time to dissect each one. But for the interest of time, I do want to thank you so much for making the time to join us today. And I think we'll certainly have to make some arrangements to have some sort of a follow-up, because I think that even for the people who are listening, I'm sure there are many follow-up points and questions that we can cover at a different time. But for now, I want to thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And thank you for all the insights that you've shared. I'm sure this conversation will continue even in the days to come.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks to our lead partners, CEO Roundtable and IUCN, under the Resolve NBS initiative. Together, we've collaborated and brought you the Sustainability Bongo podcast, where we have conversations that help us decode the Tanzanian sustainability story.